listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box, where you get the inside scoop on the steps action takers and decision makers take to align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and life. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. Each week, you'll hear from remarkable guests who have overcome challenges and obstacles to succeed in the face of adversity. By listening to their stories, you'll get practical tips, tools, and resources you can implement today to bust through your own internalized prisons of worry and doubt. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hi, welcome to this episode of the No Labels, No Limits podcast, a podcast all about helping action takers and decision makers like you align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and in life. Hi, I'm Sarah from Sarah Box Coaching and Consulting. I'm a change agent, a former executive director, and best-selling author of The Changemaker Ripple Effect, a book about how one person's drive, purpose, and boldness can impact thousands. And I'm here to tell you that the life you want is possible with the right support, mindset, and strategy. And in fact, today's episode, we're going to be joined by Caroline Thompson. Now, Caroline knows a thing or two about boldness and purpose and drive, and she will share that with us. But before we get going, let me tell you a little bit about her. Caroline is an intuitive marketing coach and content strategist. She helps female coaches create ClickAss content, nice alliteration there, so they can increase organic sales without feeling icky about it. Yeah, no one likes to feel icky about sales. Caroline managed to fight through and overcome a lot of hardships and obstacles to get to where she is today. And ultimately, she created a life-changing program for wellness coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs. So in this episode, you're going to hear how harsh bullying caused her to be silenced, leading her to deep depression, how she overcame it, and how she recovered from a near-death experience after suffering life-threatening injuries. And then how after recovering, Caroline arrived at the moment of clarity, leading to a huge breakthrough in life. And finally, we're going to talk about why she created her 4-month wellness marketing accelerator program for wellness coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs, and how that program actually transforms the women it serves. So now, with all of that, let's welcome our guest, Caroline Thompson. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's great. I'm great. And it's great to have you on the show. But before we dive in, let me ask you, is there a non-negotiable ritual or habit that you do daily that keeps you focused and headed in towards your big goal and on track?
Mm-hmm. Well, every day. So I am not a very habitual person, but I do have little things each day that I do. But I'm such a spontaneous person. It's really hard for me to keep like a schedule. But something that really does help me is to get my thoughts out on paper every single day, create a list of what I want to accomplish. And I just find that really sets things in motion and cements it in my brain more than just typing it out or something. So yeah, that and taking a bath. Love baths.
So water and writing.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask, this is an off-the-wall question. I don't recall ever asking anybody this question. What is your astrological sign?
Oh my gosh, I knew this was going to come up because I'm intuitive. So my sun is Pisces, my moon is Aries, and my rising is Sagittarius.
Well, you got some water in there. I was thinking, okay, what's the scoop with the bath? It's the water.
Yep,
so,
that's my sun.
I'm with you. Okay, there. Love it. And hey, if you want to do this whole thing by intuition, it'll be really hard for the audience to hear it. So we'll keep it vocal. But that was a fun little digression.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, so I'm really curious about your backstory and what the heck you went through to get to this moment in time we're in. So will you share a bit about your stories and experiences? And that moment of clarity?
Yeah, sure. So growing up, I was really in an oppressive environment, not only in the home, but also I went to a Catholic school. I live in the South, the very deep South in Alabama. So obviously it's a lot more traditional and conservative. And so I really wasn't allowed or encouraged to be my true authentic self. And I had a lot of bullying was a major issue growing up. It started with, other kids were bad growing up, but the teachers were really bad towards me specifically. And I was a youth group leader and my leader was awful to me. And then high school came around and older boys were mean to me. It was the people that usually you think just like mean girls at school, but it was so much worse than that. I can handle a few dirty looks and some mean comments from girls, but it was boys. Like, not only did I want them to find me like appealing, but it was a big shot to my ego. And then it was also the people I looked up to, my leaders. And so I always just thought something was wrong with me. And I just needed to lay low and be quiet and just stay out of the limelight. So when I went off to college, because I was so oppressed, I just kind of went wild. I was like, hey, like, I'm here, no rules. And I started focusing on the wrong things. I was partying too much. Didn't care about school, didn't really think about my future. All I really cared about was, hey, like, now I can do whatever. And there's too many people around. Like, I don't know half these people. So it was a couple years of that. And I was just getting so burnt out. And I was just really, really depressed when I was trying to have fun. Like, on the surface, I was having fun, but inside it was just killing me because I knew that I needed something more, but I just didn't know. I went to the University of Alabama, and Tuscaloosa can be a very dark hole for some people. You can go spiral down pretty quickly. So one night, junior year in college, I was in a horrible car accident, was ejected from the car at 100 miles an hour. The driver was going way too fast, even though we were telling him to slow down. And the car, I guess, they said that I rolled out the side window and it rolled over me, but they don't know for sure. It all happened so fast. And then my best friend had half of her face ripped off. There were 6 of us in the car, and we all just had really bad injuries. And I'd broken my pelvis in 3 places. I had some other injuries in college, but this was the awakening moment. And so after that was such a why am I here kind of thing, because I had a lot of survivor's guilt. Some of the other people in the car had it a lot worse off than I did. I was wrestling with the fact, like, okay, why would I survive? And I know people who have been in the same situations as me or have been in car accidents and they didn't. Like, why am I here? And that, I really realized that it was a gift from God. Like, God saved me for a reason. I was not supposed to live through that. None of us were. We have a job to do. And now I am going to live the life that I know I deserve and that I want to. So after that, I went backpacking in Europe for 2 months. I really got out and started to explore things. I started a blog, and I really, really started expressing myself and being myself, finding myself, really. And yeah, that kind of sparked this whole going out on my own path and being bold and expressing myself.
So I want to make a distinction. You're not saying the only way people can have that moment of clarity is to be in a near death, but for you, it took that much.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, it really did. Because of course, I mean, eventually I'm sure it would have hit me, but that really jolted it really, really quickly.
Well, and you're right. I mean, those situations, even as you were describing how fast you were going and being ejected, the mere fact that you all made, even regardless of how bad the injuries were, that in itself is miraculous.
Yes,
You know?
exactly. It was, I can't believe it to this day. It's crazy.
Well, it happened, so you kind of have to believe it, right?
I believe it was for a reason. I absolutely do.
So that's kind of leads me to one of my next questions. So you talked a little bit about your perspective on life before, and I can only imagine how hard that would be to be your younger self, in high school and feeling so bullied and shut down. Was there a place where you just thought, man, what is wrong with me, or what's wrong with the world? Is the world really this mean? Were you in that much of a dark space?
I thought it was me. I never even considered that it could be someone like an outside source. I mean, I just heard over and over again that I was the problem. Something was wrong with me. The boys in school were telling me to kill myself on Facebook. I mean, it was horrible. It was terrible. They were terrible things. And so, of course, I mean, now as someone who has traveled the world and is a lot more aware of what's going on, now I see the issues with the environment that I was in. But back then, when you're young, I mean, that's all you're conditioned to think. Like, this is what's wrong with you. You just need to be quiet. You need to shut up and sit down. So,
well, it's a pretty powerful survival mechanism, right? To just get small and get quiet. But it can become its own prison, like you just described, right? You're stuck in it and it's hard to be out. So when you came back and you started writing your blog and really being more of yourself and engaging more authentically, what did that feel like for you? Was it like a immediate light switch goes on and you're going, oh, this feels great. I'm comfortable putting myself out there like that. Or did you have moments of going back and forth?
Oh yeah. I really didn't start dipping my toe in. I just went all out and was like, you know what? YOLO, you only live once. I'm going for it. I mean, what else do I have to lose? At that point, that is what my thought process was what else do I have to lose? The first half of my life wasn't great. So how much worse could it be? Seriously. So I just went all in and really asked myself, okay, what do I want to do? I have spent my entire life making everyone else happy and silencing myself to make sure everyone around me is comfortable. But what do I want to do? And so then I just started researching and started reading and getting to know myself. I think that was the biggest thing, was really finding myself after being told for so long who I should be. I just didn't know what I wanted, honestly. And so I just kind of set off on this journey. And my blog was just about my life and what I was going through and what I was doing, and updates on what I thought spirituality was and all this stuff. It was really just my thoughts. So that really helped me kind of come out of my shell, and it forced me to really show the world who I was and what I was doing. And yeah, there were definitely times, especially because where I grew up, the people around me can be very close-minded and conservative. So of course, I mean, on a regular basis, I was like, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? And I would get really bold and publish something and share it to my Facebook wall. And then the next day I would just be in a corner, oh my God, why did I do that? Why did I write that? Oh my gosh. It was, of course, but that's how most people go through this journey. I mean, when they start doing something they haven't done before, it can be uncomfortable. So yeah, it was a roller coaster.
It always feels a little uncomfortable when you're out into the area that is unknown, but it beckons you, right? It's like you're saying you're looking for Caroline. What's Caroline wants? Like, well, you've got to go searching. Just like you took off to go to Europe and travel, you don't know until you experience. And you can always say, didn't care for that country, not going back.
Yep, there were definitely a couple of those.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, if you don't go, you don't grow either, whether it's actually going somewhere or trying something. What was one of the first surprising things you learned about yourself when you started down this new journey?
I would say how good I am at just meeting people and making connections and conversing with people from different backgrounds. Like, I'm very adaptable, and growing up in an environment where really everyone kind of wears the same things. And I'm not trying to like talk bad about my hometown or anything. It's just the way it is down here. But yeah, really branching out and seeing how many other like cultures there are and how I could easily blend into them and make friends everywhere. And that is now my favorite thing to do. I was really shy growing up. I was pretty shy, and realizing that, hey, once you're in the right environment, or once you are more confident in yourself, you can really speak to anyone. So yeah, I was really surprised by that.
It's so funny. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I remember growing up and people would say to me something about my mom, right? Like how much they loved her, I'm thinking, I don't even know who you are, right?
That was my dad. Yeah.
And she, for a time when she was in her 60s, 50s, 60s, she had this part-time job at this candy shop, which of course we loved because this was like the guy made the candy shop, right? But people would go in just to talk to her. And then random, like after she passes, which was another 20 years on, we're in San Francisco, my two sisters and I, just having lunch at this restaurant. And we hear someone say, I think those are Ruth's daughters, right? So I don't mind. I'm thinking, I eavesdrop. I don't care. And I said,
yeah, me too.
What Ruth are you talking about? So they said, my mom's there. I said, yeah, we're her daughters. They go, we loved her. She knew how to talk to anybody. She would always listen. And it was that whole thing about just being kind and interested, right? But she had what you're talking about for yourself, that ability just to be there and be present. And people always felt better after hanging out with her. And I thought, man, what a great gift. I hope I inherit that or learn it, somewhere along. But you never know how far that ability that you have, Caroline, goes to really help somebody that you may never see again.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, it is, I'm very grateful to have that. Like, empathy can be really difficult for some people. And that is something that, it can be difficult for me too, because I feel other people's emotions and can connect with people way too much on certain levels. But yeah, it is a major strength, especially like in business. And because I lived in California, I moved out there without a plan, without knowing anyone. And that helped me so much. And yeah, it's been very beneficial.
So since we're talking about the kind of that connection and being able to be empathetic, let's talk about your business some, because first of all, I'm very curious about the name of your business or what you do, that you're an intuitive marketing coach and content strategist. So how does intuition come into your work?
Oh gosh, marketing is very much like an intuitive art. There is the data and the facts and the stats and all of that. But when it comes to following the trends and seeing patterns and really building your business and growing your business in a way that is for you and is right for your audience, it takes a lot of intuition. And that takes a lot of self-awareness though. I feel like intuition is kind of a muscle that you need to really build and work on. But yeah, there's so much intuition that you use in marketing and a lot of people don't really talk about that part of it, but that is a major part of your marketing strategy.
So the intuition is the art of marketing and not the science necessarily, but the art part of it. So you talk about intuition being kind of like a muscle that we can develop. Can you talk a little bit about how we can do that?
Yeah, I mean, just listening and paying attention, being more conscious of what's going on, and listening to your body, honestly. Like one of my business coaches said something that was so true. And she said, your body knows where the money is, because when you get those gut feelings and you need to do something, but maybe you're putting it off, or you have an idea and it's been lingering in your head for a while, and then you start to see things like that everywhere, it's really following your instinct. And sometimes it may not be right, but that is another beautiful thing about marketing. It's just like an experiment. You're just adapting and learning, and really following your intuition. So, yeah.
Do you find that folks tend to want to let the data sway them over their intuition?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll have people, I think every coach or consultant or whatever can relate to this, but I'll have people that come in with the kind of know-it-all attitude, like, well, I've done this before, and I read this article that you're supposed to do this, this, and this, and I'm like, okay, well, how is that good for your business? Like, how does that tie into you, and why do you think you need it? And most of the time they're just like, I don't know, I just read it somewhere. It's like, okay, well, everyone's different. Everyone's business is different. Everyone's audience is different. So that data that you're seeing doesn't necessarily apply to you. That's a different industry, perhaps. But data is very important, but it's your data, like the data that your marketing strategy is giving you and what your results you're getting. So it plays a major part of it. It's very half and half, but you have to be looking at the right data.
I had a doctor explain to me one time, he was, before he passed, an endocrinologist, right? So he's like looking at all, and so we're talking, I says, well, and he said, all your stuff's normal. And I said, okay, well, I guess that doesn't leave us any answers, right? And he goes, no, you fit normal within the means of the data for all your demographics. But I will tell you that that doesn't necessarily mean it fits for you. Now, here I'm listening to this guy. He's like a longtime doctor. He is so respected in his field that I actually had another professional get me in to see him. Like I just said, I can't get in. He goes, oh, he's a friend of mine. I'll call. I had an appointment in 2 days. And this guy, he goes, no. It's just because the data says that, you have to understand where you fit within the data. And we don't ever accept the data as only the data.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're describing that, like the data is really important, but it has to fit for you. And then he said to me, he says, let me give you an example. You're about 5'8". I'm guessing you wear somewhere between a 9, 10, 10 and a half shoe. And I go, yeah, depending on the style. And he goes, so what if I told you that average people of your height wear a 9? So here's your 9. So I said, oh man, I'd be in pain. He goes, my point exactly. Mm-hmm. It's a data point, but it's not your truth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even rolling off of that, there are so many people who go to the doctor in so much pain, or they've been sick, or they've had migraines, and their tests come back normal. So do they automatically, they're like, well, I'm fine. I feel great now. If the data's right, then let's go home. But there is and that's where intuition comes in. And that's when you have to test out your diet, and you really have to start figuring out what works for you instead of just going off of lab results.
So that brings me to another question for you. How did you decide specifically to serve the niche of wellness coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs? And then after you tell me that, tell me what a spiritual entrepreneur is.
Tired of feeling stuck and ending with the same result? Want to know how Sarah can help you with one-on-one or organizational coaching? Then book your free discovery call at sarahbox.com/contact. Now, back to the show.
So after college, like I said earlier, I moved out to California on a whim. I just needed to get out and explore. And when I got out there, I mean, growing up in Alabama, I mean, I really thought that eating a lean cuisine every night was like top tier health. Like I was like, I am killing it. I am a poster child for healthy living. And when I got out there, I was like, why are people running at 6 a.m. on a Saturday? Like, aren't they hungover, or what is this? What is happening? Why are people eating what they're eating? It was such a huge wake up call. And so I really started to learn about what health and wellness was. And then I became a marketing manager for a fitness app and started working with these fitness influencers and health influencers and really seeing how that all worked. And it was just so interesting to me, finding out how to really heal yourself naturally and just feel better, look better, and feel more confident in what you're eating, what you look like, all this stuff. And a lot of the health industry and wellness, I mean, there is also that your spiritual health too. And growing up in a Catholic church, I never really clicked with it. I always just felt very oppressed, and it just wasn't interesting to me. Like I was just like, this just seems like a lot of rules that I'm supposed to follow, or else I am eternally damned. And then I started really doing the research myself and seeing, okay, well, why is everyone telling me that I have to be this way? And going back and figuring out, okay, well, I don't really believe in that, and I'm okay. Like, I don't think God hates me for that. So really, like I said, finding myself and learning more about, okay, what's possible, and seeing how the health and wellness industry work. It was just very interesting to me. And so when I find something interesting, I just go for it. And when I started building my business, I was like, okay, who do I really like to work with? What do I like to talk about? And health and wellness was a major part of it, and spirituality. And then you asked what a spiritual entrepreneur was, right?
I did, yes.
So I would say a spiritual entrepreneur is someone who knows that there's a bigger purpose to all of this. Like, they have a purpose in their business. Like, their business has a purpose, and it's supposed to play into the bigger picture. Spirituality is such a big term. It's such a wide net. But I've worked with like astrologers. I've worked with hypnotherapists. I've worked with, all kinds of people, with Christian entrepreneurs. It's such a wide spectrum. But I think just having a spiritual connection, or believing that there is a bigger purpose, is spiritual entrepreneur, I guess you could say.
So it's what connects them to the heart of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
There's a bigger purpose to their business.
How do you think that affects when people, because I'm guessing people have asked you to work with them who don't come from that mindset, because, you've been in business long enough that you've had different experiences. Mm-hmm. So what do you notice is the difference when people come from that? And I'm just going to use kind of that spiritual heart-centered approach, right? Mm-hmm. That guides them. What do you notice is the difference in those businesses or their experiences of running the business, if there is a difference?
Yes. So I heard a term recently that I am obsessed with. And if I was a band, I would name an album or my band after it. But so everyone's heard of the word paranoia, but there's also a word pronoia that is the opposite of it. So whereas paranoia is you think that the world is conspiring against you, pronoia is you think the world is conspiring for you, like things are happening for you. And that is a massive difference that I see in the two groups, because when you believe that there is a divine plan, that there is like the universe and God is supporting you. He knows what's best for you. She knows what's best for you, whatever you want to call that. But that is when you don't take things so hard. You don't take things so personally. It's not so personal. You understand, okay, well, if this didn't work, then now I have that data. I know that this path wasn't right, but I needed to learn that lesson. And now I can shift over and do this. Like now this is what's better for me. That wasn't the path. This is the path. And it's really just a big learning experience for them. It's a lot more fun and just easy. Like it's just easy because people don't take things so personally. They know that there's a process to everything and everything falls into place when it's supposed to.
That's a huge mindset shift, right? It's like, it's not about making things worse for you. It didn't happen to you. It just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to pick how we interact with what's happened. And I love how you put it, it's like it's a chance to figure out, well, that path wasn't meant for me. And when we have those kind of obstacles and setbacks, sometimes it's just great to go, man, I'm so glad I found that out now rather than 30 years from now or whatever. So it is that little, be grateful for those obstacles because you never know. And they don't have to come at 100 miles an hour, Caroline.
No, that's a lesson I hope nobody has to learn.
Oh my goodness. So talk about the program that you developed as a result of all of what you've learned. And what I'm particularly interested in is what's it like and how do your women who come through it, your coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs, how do they benefit from it?
So before I started coaching and consulting and before I even built the program, I had my own agency. I was really doing marketing for like companies and businesses, bigger businesses, but I had so many female entrepreneurs coming to me asking to work with me, but I was too expensive to do like the done for you stuff. I was too expensive to write copyright for them or manage their social media accounts. And I really just saw a huge gap in the market. And I enjoyed talking with them so much more. And that's when I realized, okay, this is the path that I'm supposed to be on. I didn't like what I was doing. I really enjoyed like the higher level strategy, putting things together and showing people how it all works and making sure that marketing is fun for you. Like when you have your own business and you're in the health and wellness industry, marketing can seem just like this daunting task. It can seem so overwhelming, especially when there's so much information out there. And like you said, some people, especially when you're in like the science field, are so reliant on data and, well, this article told me how to do that. I should do this and this and this. And so I really wanted to shift their mindset to be like, okay, well, let's come up with a plan so that you not only bring in more sales, but you spend less money doing it. You are able to express yourself authentically. You're able to make connections. You're able to find clients you actually enjoy working with, and you have fun doing it. Like it's I want it to be a fun process for you because I love marketing. It sounds so cheesy, but that's because I have found the marketing that I enjoy. I've made it fun and there's no one way to do it. So that is what WMA is all about. It's finding out who you are, who your business is, and what your role is with your business, who you're going to help, what your story is, what your brand story is, how to get that story out and come up with a growth strategy that feels good for you and your audience so that you're not having to spam people or sell your soul just to get a client, so that it feels good for you. So that's what it's about.
So it sounds like it actually benefits people outside of that wellness market as well, right? Because those are foundational questions.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And it's really not just for health and wellness entrepreneurs. I have had a ton of graphic designers or business coaches or just all kinds of people come through, and it is really all encompassing. The content really applies to everyone. I'm just a content strategist, so I use the name for SEO and targeting. So that is why it's called the Wellness Marketing Accelerator. And I've considered changing the name, but I've gone this far, so I'm just sticking to it for now.
Your people will find you. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I think we can get so hung up on like those details that we never start doing something. Mm-hmm. And to your point of like, okay, who am I? What's my role? Right. That's a really important question that we get so immersed in the doing, we forget to think about what's my role in this and what do I want it to be? Not just what am I good at because I'm the only one able at this point to do it. Ultimately, long term, what do I want my role to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of people skip over that part. And that is the whole part. Like you could post on social media all day long and write blog posts until your hand falls off. But if you don't know what direction you're heading down, if you're not clear on what you're supposed to be doing and how it plays into your business and how it's supposed to bring in sales for you, then you're wasting your time. And that's why people are so overwhelmed. They're like, I have so much to do. I need to be here and I need to post this many times. I'm like, okay, you got to take a step back. Why? Ask yourself why. Why do you need to do that? And most of the time they're just like, I don't know. Someone said that I should. I'm like, okay, well, that's not true.
That's
you
when you get to
doing way too much.
You get to do your magic one and say, I now give you permission to stop. Just stop doing it right now.
Step away from the keyboard.
That's right.
You're overwhelmed because you're doing more than you're supposed to. I always tell them, do more with less. Just focus on what you need to do and figure out why you need to do that and stick to it.
And it's helpful to have someone external, though, like yourself, to be able to say, okay, here's the world that you could be doing something in, right? These are all the different tactics. But if you don't know your why, right, which is my big thing, it's like, why? It's annoying. It's like that 2-year-old question, why? Why do we do it this way? That's such a powerful question. Mm-hmm. And it's a fair question. Why? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Just because I thought I was supposed to, or I didn't want to miss out or whatever. But when you can answer the why with, well, because that's the best way to help the people I want to help, then that it starts feeling better. Now, tell me, to what degree, when you're helping someone, does your intuition kick in? So say you and I are working together and I've done everything you've told me and I'm technically on paper, the data looks good. And you're just going, I don't think so, Sarah. Something's not right here. How do you, I'm guessing that happens for you since you've got the empath piece pretty tight. What do you do with that?
Oh yeah. That happens all the time. I had a client call yesterday actually, where she was telling me that, okay, I created this course about smoking, but I'm writing this blog post about hypnotism. And then I'm like, whoa. And she started talking about this other program that she wants to create about weight loss. I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is confusing. Even I'm confused and I'm not even a potential client. So I was like, what is your core offer? Like, what are you focusing on? Because you're branching out with so much, and that is you're going to burn out. Like tomorrow, I'm burnt out just listening to it. So, and that's coming from someone who loves to create. I am just I just crank stuff out. I love it. But yeah, I have those all the time where I'm like, okay, stop. And just going back to, okay, why do you want to do that? Why do you feel like you need to create that? what is the purpose, and just bringing them back to center and really grounding them in, because we start modules 1 and 2 are all about mindset and your brand identity. So we have that figured out before we move forward. So just bringing them back to that information, to their brand identity that we created. And usually that puts them back on the right track. But yeah, they definitely, a lot of people just need that outside, like third party source to be like, okay, let's wind it back.
I like to think about it like, when you're first learning how to bowl and they put the bumpers up, it's like, that's the direction you're going. You can go a little off, you can go a little to the right or the left, but ultimately you want to end up down there. Mm-hmm. So let's stay on this lane for the time being. And then when we master this lane, we'll go over to lane 8, Mm-hmm. And I know that has helped me as having coaches that have said, get back in your lane for the time being, or why haven't you done that yet? That was your priority. That whole piece of staying focused and accountable is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So with that in mind, I want to ask you, for folks listening to this, and particularly for the women out there who consider themselves entrepreneurial, or they're wanting to start something, or maybe they're even already in a business, what are 1 or 2 beginning steps that they can take now, right now, without waiting for something that can help ignite their own personal or professional movement forward?
Ooh, that's a good question. Gosh, I feel like it changes every day, especially right now with everything going on. I would say, so something that's really been lingering lately, and what I've been, like a message I've been really called to put out there, is around what your goals are. I think a lot of people get so caught up on goals that really are just impossible to reach, or just put a lot of strain on them, because they set goals around, like, they'll say that they want to reach $10,000 a month for the rest of the year or something, when it's so much more effective to set goals around how you're going to get there, around what tasks you are going to do, what you can hold yourself accountable for, because when you set goals around the outcome, there are so many different factors that you can't control. And like you can't force your clients to pay you. You can't force people to become your clients. You can do all the marketing. You can write a blog post once a month. You can post on social media 3 times a week. You can set those goals and do what you need to do, hold yourself accountable those ways. But ultimately, you can't control others. You can't control some factors in that. So, people just put so much pressure on themselves and then beat themselves up when they don't reach that goal, when in reality, you couldn't control it. So yeah, I would say getting clear on what you can control and what you can't.
And then just taking action on what you can.
Yes, exactly.
That's pretty good advice, especially right now where people have the choice of being freaked out or saying, okay, what can I control? Mm-hmm. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. And it may not even be a business or a huge goal, but it's something that you can make progress on. Mm-hmm. I'm totally inspired by the number of people when I walk my neighborhood with my dogs that have spotless garages and manicured front yards now because they've been cleaning them. I'm thinking, oops, I've been working.
Yeah, I know. Same. God, I threw myself into work, but I've been buying a bunch of plants. So that's how I've just been collecting things. So
I like it, but I appreciate that. I appreciate your advice because it's doable. Mm-hmm. It's really doable. It's not a huge thing. So Caroline, where can people go to learn more about your accelerator program, WMA?
So they can go to my website. It's socialgranola.com. And those are Social Granola are all my handles for Facebook and Instagram, all over the place. So that is where they can find me. Just go to my website, socialgranola.com, and you'll see, you can join my free Facebook group. There will be a link to that and just all kinds of information.
Very cool. And we'll put those links also in the show notes for anybody who's listening and doesn't have something handy to write down on right now.
Okay, awesome.
Caroline, thank you so much for your time today. I've really loved listening and learning from you.
Thank you, Sarah. It was fun.
Good. That was my goal.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic vision coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. So please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Until next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.